My air ran out 3 hours ago, and I am still breathing only because I stopped moving. That is the truth of my last day as a princess of the Ethereum Dominion. Not a throne, not a crown, just me, lying against a broken rock wall on a moon nobody bothers to name, listening to my suit hiss out its final reserves of clean air. My name is Valera Korath, and 2 days ago I had a title, a court, and a future picked out for me by people who never once asked what I wanted. Now I have a cracked visor, a dying power cell, and a view of purple dust that stretches forever. They left me here because I said no. Lord Daskvoth wanted my hand and my homeworld's mining rights in the same contract. My own council smiled and told me it was an honor. When I refused in front of the entire court, they did not argue with me. They simply stripped my rank, walked me to a transport, and dropped me on Kethra 9, a moon with poison air and no rescue routes. A polite execution, dressed up as banishment. I told myself I would survive out of spite alone. Spite does not fix a power cell. My suit's small display blinks a warning I have already memorized. Oxygen reserve, 11%. Kethra 9's air would burn my lungs raw in under a minute without the suit's filter running. So I sit very still, breathing slowly, doing the only smart thing left to do, which is nothing at all. There is a strange comfort in the quiet before an ending. No one is watching me. No one is judging how a princess should behave while dying. I have permission, finally, to just be a person who is scared. My comm unit still has a spark of power left in it. It is not built for distress calls outside Dominion channels, but I am done playing by Dominion rules. I dig through the ancient frequency logs stored in its memory, ones my old tutor once mocked as primitive trade static, and I find a human relay signal, decades old, still technically open. I do not expect anyone to hear it. I send it anyway, because doing nothing at all felt worse than doing something foolish. Then I wait, and the moon's twin suns dip low, painting the dust the color of dried blood. I almost miss it when my comm crackles. A voice, low and rough, speaking accented trade common. This is Callum Bray, hauling scrap through this dead system. Somebody screaming on a frequency that's been quiet for 30 years. That you? My throat is too dry to answer right away. When I do, my voice comes out smaller than I intend. I am stranded. My air is nearly gone. Please, if you can help, I will owe you a debt beyond measure. There is a pause, then a short laugh, tired but not unkind. Lady, I don't want a debt. I want to know why a glowing alien is broadcasting on my grandfather's old trade line from a moon that's marked as forbidden on every chart I own. It is forbidden because my people put me here, I say. I refused a marriage that would have handed my world to men who see it only as a mine. They called it banishment. I call it convenient murder. Another pause, longer this time. Convenient murder, he repeats. That's a hell of a phrase for royalty. I am not royalty anymore, I say. I am a woman with 11% air and no shame left to protect. I hear the low thrum of an engine shifting course through the static. My heart, foolishly, allows itself a flicker of hope. 10% now, probably, Callum says. Hang on, I'm coming down. Try not to die before I get there. It'll mess up my whole week. I almost laugh, and the laugh nearly costs me air I cannot spare. His ship descends faster than I expect, a battered hauler with mismatched plating and a hull that looks like it has survived several arguments with asteroid fields. It is nothing like the polished cruisers of my former court. It is loud, ugly, and somehow it is the most beautiful thing I have ever seen. The landing ramp drops before the engines even finish cooling. Callum jogs down it in a patched environmental suit, carrying a portable air canister like it weighs nothing. He is younger than his voice suggested, with sandy hair pressed flat under his helmet, and eyes that look more annoyed than heroic, as if rescuing strangers from toxic moons is simply an inconvenience he has decided to tolerate today. You're paler than I expected, he says, kneeling beside me and locking the canister into my suit's intake valve. Also smaller. The stories about alien royalty always make you sound taller. I apologize for disappointing you, I manage, as clean air finally floods my lungs and the burning in my chest eases. Don't apologize. Just breathe. He glances at the darkening horizon. We should move. This moon has things living in those rock tunnels that don't care whose princess you used to be. As if summoned by his words, a low growl rolls out from the shadows between the boulders, followed by the click of claws against stone. Something large is moving toward us, drawn by our voices, our light, our warmth. Kethra 9's tunnel stalkers, I whisper. They hunt by sound. We should not be talking. Should have mentioned that before I made a joke about your height. Callum mutters, already pulling me up by the arm. My legs are unsteady, weakened by hours of shallow breathing, and I nearly collapse against him. He does not complain. He simply adjusts his grip and half carries me toward the ramp, moving quickly but carefully, like this is not the first time he has hauled something heavier than himself out of danger. The growl behind us turns into a full charge, gravel scattering under heavy limbs. Callum does not slow down to look back. Instead, he pulls a flare from his belt, twists it alive, and throws it behind us without breaking stride. The sudden burst of light and heat sends the creature skidding backward with a shriek, blinded and confused. It is not a clever trick. It is not an elegant weapon like the ones my Dominion guards once carried. It is crude, cheap, and it works. That will not hold it for long, I say between gritted teeth as we reach the ramp. Don't need it to hold long. Just need it to hold long enough. We stumble up into the ship together, and Callum slaps the control panel to seal the ramp behind us. The door grinds shut just as something heavy slams against the outer hull, rattling the whole frame like a struck drum. For a moment, neither of us speaks. We simply stand there, breathing hard, listening to the creature's frustrated scraping fade, as the ship's engines begin to hum beneath our feet. You are either very brave or very foolish, I finally say, sinking into a cracked passenger seat. Probably foolish, Callum says, dropping into the pilot's chair and guiding the ship up through the thin atmosphere. Brave people plan ahead. I just heard someone scream for help and figured I'd deal with the consequences later. On my world, no one helps without expecting something back, I say quietly. A favor, a marriage, a political advantage. Even my own council only kept me alive because I was useful to them. The moment I stopped being useful, they abandoned me. Callum glances at me, his expression unreadable for a moment. Sounds exhausting, always being a transaction. It is the only life I have known. Well, he says, turning back to the controls as the moon shrinks behind us into a dull purple dot. You're on my ship now, and I don't run a trading post. I heard somebody in trouble, and I had room in the cargo hold. That's the whole deal. No debt, no favor, no marriage contract hidden in the fine print. I stare at him, searching for the hidden motive I have been trained since childhood to expect. I find none. Just a tired pilot who made an inconvenient choice because it felt like the right one. Why? I ask, because I genuinely do not understand. Why risk your ship, your safety, for someone you never met, who can offer you nothing? He shrugs, adjusting a dial with the ease of long habit. Where I'm from, you don't let people die just because helping them doesn't pay well. Guess that sounds strange to a princess. It sounds, I say slowly, like something I have never been offered before. The ship steadies as we clear the moon's gravity well, and the stars outside the viewport stretch wide and endless, no longer framed by the walls of a palace or the schedule of a court. For the first time since my banishment, I do not know exactly what happens next, and the not knowing does not terrify me the way it once would have. So, Callum says, breaking the silence, banished princess with no home, no title, and apparently no idea how regular people live. What's the plan now? I consider the question carefully, tasting the strange freedom of it. No council to answer to, no throne demanding my obedience, no marriage contract waiting to swallow my choices whole. I do not know, I admit, and for the first time in years, the words feel less like a failure and more like a beginning. Perhaps I will find out. Callum nods, as if that is a perfectly reasonable answer, and turns the ship toward the open stars. Behind us, Kethra 9 fades into darkness, taking my old life with it. Ahead there is only sky, and a stubborn, ordinary human who decided a stranger's life was worth the trouble of saving. For once, I do not feel like a princess, or a prisoner, or a bargaining piece in someone else's plan. I simply feel alive, and for the first time in a very long while, that is enough.